Welcome to the Time Leverage Lab podcast, the show that helps you take 10 to 12 hours off of your week every single week within 24 weeks if you just execute what we talk about on the show. My name is Brent Kokel. I'm your host. I run a commercial real estate services business that does just under $2 million a year in revenue, 34% EBITDA, and it takes me 90 minutes a week to run. And what we talk about on this show is the things that I have learned along the way that took me from working 60 hours a week down to the 90 minutes a week I work on that particular company today. And then a lot of cool tools and frameworks and systems that I've either learned or built along the way. And the idea here is that if you listen to this show, then you're going to be able to plug and play a lot of what I talk about. It doesn't matter what industry you're in or what niche inside of any industry, because we're really talking about things that are universally applicable to businesses of all different sizes in all different industries and all different niches, because we're dealing with the management system and the procedures and the measurement tools for every single business, which you're all going to have. So with that, let's talk about the very first thing, because this is the first episode of this show. And what's going to go down on this one is we're going to talk about your time and where your time goes as the owner of a company. And when you're in the very early stages of starting it, like you're below 1.5 million in revenue, you are probably going to be hustling really hard and doing a lot of things yourself. So I'm not really talking to that audience here. I'm talking to the people that are getting to a stage where their business is getting more mature. So we'll talk about 1.5 million to 5 million in revenue, where we start having some resources that allow us to make some moves that we wouldn't have otherwise had. Because when we're under that stage, we've got to be resourceful, meaning that it's our effort and our skill that's really going to put everything out there. When we have resources, now we need to start thinking about, how am I going to deploy those resources? Number one resource we all have is our time, but we've got to understand where it's going, because most of the time as business owners or entrepreneurs, whatever you want to call yourself, you're going to find that you're busy all day, but you're not really going to know what it was you're doing. There was a time, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago or so, I was coming home and I sat down and my wife asked me, "What'd you do today?" Which is a normal question that my wife would ask me. And I just stared at her blankly. And I thought, I really have no idea what I did today. I know that I was busy all day. I know that it felt like I got to my office, I blinked, and the day was over because everything was coming at me so fast. I know I responded to emails. I know staff came in and they wanted to talk to me about stuff, but I couldn't tell her what I really did. And that served kind of like as the litmus test, or the light bulb moment for me, was realizing that if I couldn't articulate what I did, I had no idea where my time was going, and I was just busy all the time. And what I realized was that being busy is far different from being productive. I was just trying to keep the machine spinning versus trying to point it in any specific direction that would give any sort of meaningful result. And that was where I decided, I was like, okay, we've got to do something about this. So the first thing that I did was I did a simple time study, and there's probably a million of those that you can download wherever you want to go in the darkest corners of the internet, or maybe the lightest ones, whatever. But as time study was simple. The one I did was just 15-minute timers, and I would set a timer, do some work, then I would describe what the task was, and then I'd assign a category to it. So a category would be like marketing skill, or marketing, or sales, or fulfillment, or management, or whatever the category was. And then the big thing that I did that I think might be +1 from some typical time studies that are out there was I assigned a skill level to it, which was just my gut feeling. And I'd ask myself the question based on the task was could I get a VA or a low-level employee that was making, $20 an hour to do the thing that I just did? Could I get somebody that was $100 an hour, like a seasoned operator, to be able to do what I just did? Or is it something that truly only I could do? And I categorized that at $1,000 an hour, which I wasn't making. But that's how I ended up doing that. It was just an easy system, 10, 100, 1,000. And realizing that once I did that time study, that's the thing that unlocked a lot of free time for me, because I realized that so much of my outgoing effort was things that are in these lower level tasks. The lower level tasks were the easiest things to offload because they were the easiest things to execute. I just didn't have the awareness that I was doing those things. So the time study helped me, but then really going through and seeing, hey, is this something that I really shouldn't be doing? Is it something that energizes me? That was what directed me towards offloading some of those things. And that started to free things up, right? Started me on the path from 60-hour weeks to 90-minute weeks. And understanding where my time goes is kind of like the first thing we have to do is we have to diagnose a problem. If we go to the doctor and we say that we're not feeling good, they're going to diagnose that. They're going to ask a ton of questions. And if we don't have any answers, what are they going to do? They're going to run a ton of tests. So if you feel like you're drowning and it's like firefighting all day long, but you don't know why, you don't know what's going on, you're just like, it hurts, I don't know how, then the first thing you've got to do is run a little test. And that's what the time study does. It gives you a test to see where your time's going. And then like the 201 version is to understand like what the leverage of that task is. But just having that awareness, that's the first stage in like a multi-stage process. This show is designed to help you get 10 to 12 hours a week back within 24 weeks, which is 6 months if you do the math right. But you've got to understand where your time's going right now. That's like step one in this multi-step process. So if you want to go do that on your own, awesome. If you want some help in doing that, I've created a free resource that is the first step in this multi-step process that's called the Founder Time Dividend System. And within 48 hours of plugging this in, you're going to be able to clear up 3 hours off of your calendar this week. It's not something you have to go learn. It's just a tool that I built that you can go plug in. And what I'm doing with this thing is I'm just wanting to create a little bit of space, because if you're going to change the trajectory of your company, the first thing you need is you need time to be able to do that. And you can't do that when you're in reaction firefighter mode all day long. So if I give you 3 hours back in 1 week, that's going to prove to you that these systems do something. And if you like where that's going and you want help going the rest of the way, then we talk about that a little further on. But if you want that, just go to timeleveragelab.com and you will get 3 hours back this week with something that you can just plug in, and you'll see it within the first 48 hours of downloading that. That's it for the first episode. Thanks for watching or listening wherever you are doing that from. I'll see you on the next episode.